Hello everybody, welcome back. So I recorded this with no sound for fun, I guess. So you needed 3 fabrics for this block. Fabric A, you'll need a 5-inch square, 2 3 1/8-inch squares, and 4 2 3/4-inch squares. Fabric B, then you'll need 4 2 3/4-inch squares and 2 3 1/8-inch squares. And fabric C, you need 4 2 3/4-inch squares and 4 2 3/4 by 5-inch rectangles. So first, I don't know what I'm going to do first. Let's wait and see what I did first. I believe I did the middle square first. We'll wait until I catch up there with myself. It's a lot easier to tuck when you're not trying to do it also. So there's that. So you're going to take the middle. We're going to do the middle square first. So you take your pink 5-inch square and your 4 2 3/4-inch squares, minor hearts. And we're going to make a square and a square. So we're going to line up opposite corners there. I'm doing the other one. And we will sew down the middle there of the small blocks. We're going to sew corner to corner, just pinning them so they don't move. If I was just doing one, I might not have pinned it, but since I was doing 2 at a time, I did want to pin it. So I'm just going to pin the other side. And then I did decide, instead of using my leader and ender there so much on this one, I just went ahead and did the next step also, so I could just keep 2 steps going simultaneously. I still use my leader and ender, just not as much. So I'm going to draw a line down one of those just to show you if you're not comfortable with it, or you don't have the diagonal seam tape, which I do, and I like to use on smaller pieces. But you can just draw a line corner to corner, which is what you're going to sew. Just right on that line is where you would sew. My line's not very good. The fabric moved, but I wasn't planning on using it anyway. So then you're going to take your 2 1/8-inch squares. I think that's what that says. Yeah, 2 1/8. And now you had 2 of each, and I already made one into half square triangles, but that's all you're going to do with those 2. And I do cut them apart. Being so small, I figured stretch wouldn't be a big enough issue. So I'm going to pin it on either side there and then cut it down the middle. And then I'll just sew a 1/4 inch from either side of it, or from the middle, to turn them into the half square triangles that we will later trim down to 2 3/4. I'm just cutting it in half there. I don't know why I picked up the pin. I really didn't want it. So now we're just going to go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew that, and then I'm going to sew one of the half square triangles, and then I'll sew the other one, and then the other half square triangle, and then I will use the ender after that to get them back over here to do the next step. Getting that out of there. And I line that up with the diagonal seam tape. That's what I'm telling you there. Even though there's the line on that one. But again, the stitch won't match the line anyway because the fabric did slip when I was drawing the line. Now just a 1/4 inch down that one. And then I'll cut that off and do the next line on it, the opposite side. Taking the pins out. I like to take them out as I go because I don't want to get poked. And then I'll do the other half square triangle. And then I'll use the ender again there to get them all off of it. I do apologize. I don't really like doing the voiceover. I feel like I'm faster telling you how I did it than I actually was doing it. And there's going to be some dead air on here, so sorry about that. So I'm going to trim those 1/4 inch from the stitch line on the outside, obviously, because I want it to fold out. Go. And I have a bad habit of not closing that rotary cutter. I'm working on it, but you know, it is what it is. So now we're going to iron those open so we can pin the other sides. I do like that block. Now we're just going to pin the other opposite corners and do the same thing for that again. I don't know if you're supposed to put those pins in this pressing mat, but it hasn't hurt it yet, so I'm going to go ahead and keep doing it. Now those half square triangles, I already sewed the one strip together, and through trial and error, I figured out that I want them to be ironed open to opposite sides because they're going to line up with the same color of them, so it'll be easier that way. So then our third piece is a flying geese block, and you're just going to do it just like that. You're going to put the pink on the right and the red on the left. Now you could do them opposite, but you just want to make sure they're all on the same side. If you do red on the right, you want to make sure all the red ones are on the right and all the pink would be on the left. So those we have to do one at a time, just like any flying geese block. And it's just going to be corner to corner also, just like the square and a square block. Well, I don't know if that's what it's actually called based on that. I don't know. Let me know. I'm not a professional. I just play around. So I'm just telling you there how I'm going to alternate sewing again, so I don't have to use the ender every time I'm finished. So I'm just going to sew corner to corner again. I took that pin out because that fabric looked a little puckered and I wanted it to lay flatter. So it's still pinned on the other side there, but I took the one closer to the camera off. Now we'll do that one. And I line up with my diagonal seam tape down there at the bottom. And then I'll trim off the middle piece and put it through again with the other one. Again, I'll line up with the diagonal seam tape. Now I'll cut the first block there off and we'll go trim it and iron it open. And we will add the red block. Again, you can do them either way. And in fact, the book calls for it the other way. The middle block is supposed to match the block on the right, but I liked it this way better, so I did it this way. You don't always have to follow the pattern. Do what you like. So just pinning it, and we'll head back over and sew it. Oops, sorry. Brought up the... Well, I don't know. It's going to be up, I guess. There we go. Now we'll cut them both off. And we'll head back over and finish up our separate pieces. I'm going to trim them all down again, 1/4 inch from the stitch line. All those little extra pieces are going to go in for my scrap quilt or my crumb quilt, whatever you want to call it. Sorry, I'm not really on camera there. I do notice it right about here. See? I moved it up, but really it was just cutting it corner to corner. And we'll iron them all open. When I make flying geese, I notice how that middle part of that, the part with the hearts, always curves down. I'm not sure what I'm doing to make it do that. So if anybody has any suggestions, I'd be loving to hear them. So now we're going to trim the half square triangles, and we're going to trim them down to 2 3/4. I have to find my square. I lost it for a minute, so bear with me. I do find it after knocking a bunch of stuff down. It'll be here soon, I promise. Eventually. Again, I don't like voiceover. There it is. So now we're going to line up the diagonal there in the middle as close to the 2 outside edges there as possible. Yep, and then we're going to trim those 2 off. Flip it around and we'll line up the diagonal again, but we're also going to line up the 2 3/4 inch point there in the bottom left. Yep, and then the 2 lines on the side, and then trim it again. And we'll do it one more time. Line up the diagonal. And you will end up with 4 of those. Like I said, I already did 2 of them. Just like I already did 3 of the flying geese already. And I already sewed the other ones together. That's how I found out about the seam, which way to iron it. Alright, we're going to throw those over in my stuffing box. And then we're going to get all our pieces together. There's the top coming that is already done. And then you'll line up with your hearts all in the middle to make it a new block. And then you want your triangles to line up where they're the same color touching each other. Now I'm just going to line up or sew up my separate rows. And all the way down. I don't know why my flying geese curve. Again, if you have any secrets to it, please let me know. So when I did that, I noticed I had them on the opposite sides based on how I ironed the seam open. So I just switched them. That's all it was. I'll pop a pin in that seam to keep it tight. Then we're going to go over and sew it. I do try to put that second stitch right across that X on those pink pieces, but I haven't mastered it yet, so we're working on it. And now I'm not going to go back over to the pressing mat or cutting area, wherever. I'm just going to pull the other piece over and pin it there. I did make sure it was going the right way. I have sewn many pieces the wrong way, so I like to double check. And then I'll do the same thing with the bottom row there. I'm going to cut it loose and just pull the other one over, line it up, and sew it. Again, I checked. I showed you there that the triangles are supposed to touch the same colors. I didn't pin it because the seam was first, and it's just going to go right through. Now we're going to go open our rows up, and I do repress the top one. I press the top and bottom to the inside and the middle piece to the outside because that's a lot of seams on that middle block. So I didn't want them to go that way. I mean, it's still going to be bulky, it's just not going to be as bad. And press them open. Didn't do too bad on my lining it up there, but it could have been better. There it is. I do like it. I got one more to do before putting this table runner together. I'm a little behind. It's fine. It'll be ready for next year. Or, you know, my mom wanted it. Maybe she'll get it. I'm just lining up my seams there, pinning at both seams and then at the end. And then I'll fold the bottom up there and spin it around. And do the same thing, both seams and the end. I like to pin at the end because that's when it usually slips on me when I get to a certain point. And that's why I pin it there, because then I can go right through and it won't slip because it's pinned. It's holding it in place, and that's what I'm telling you there. Alright, we'll sew it up and then we'll see what it looks like. And I don't cut it there either. I really just spin it around and start again. And it worked out just fine. Got caught a little there. I had to move the pin and take it on down, but then I'll have my pin there that holds it in place. I just slid out. Now we'll iron it open and see what it looks like. And I actually really like this block. This might be one of my favorites. Alright, there it is. Let me know what you think, and I will see you all next time.